A Magellan Strategies poll released this week shows voters currently support at least two of the major issues on this year's ballot. According to the poll, 55% support the minimum wage measure, which would raise the Colorado's minimum wage to $12 an hour by 2020. And 54% of those polled support changing to a primary system, including unaffiliated voters. Mike, you and the Independence Institute have ran and opposed a variety of ballot measures over the years. If you're backing either one of these and see 55%, 54% right after Labor Day, are you happy?
Pretty happy. Yeah, it kind of depends on the undecideds, and then you have to, in all these pollings, by the way, it's very instructive to always look at the details. So, for example, if you look at some of these, you'll see that registered Republicans might support something more than registered Democrats or of a certain age, and so you would feel pretty good. If you're under 50%, I think you should be nervous, which is the case with Raise the Bar. If you're at 35%, which is the case for Amendment 69, I think you just, and if you're Irene Aguilar, I think you say, damn the torpedoes, I don't really care. We're moving forward with this thing because I've been abandoned by all my own people. And she's even said she considers 35% a victory for the idea of single payer. Yeah, I think I would feel pretty comfortable if I was on the minimum wage campaign. It's a fairly seductive measure because they didn't make, it's not like they said the minimum wage will go to $15 an hour January 1st, right? No, I mean, it's very, come on, this isn't until 2020, it's only $12 an hour, it's not that big a deal. And they know perfectly well that there's more Coloradans who are employees than are employers, and there are a lot more people who just don't think it sounds like that much money. Frankly, and so I would feel good if I was on the minimum wage campaign. Letting unaffiliateds vote, I would feel okay, but I'd also keep in mind that we're a third, roughly, unaffiliated Republicans, Democrats, and I don't understand. I have to tell you, this measure, you can vote in a primary if you want to. All you have to do is affiliate, and it's really easy to do. This is like saying, I want to help pick the next pope, but I don't want to become a cardinal. And hell, I don't even want to become a Catholic. And so I hope I would feel better about the minimum wage than any of these other ones if I was back in one of those campaigns.
Eric, you consulted on a lot of ballot issues way back in the day. Mid-50s, Labor Day, good news?
Better than mid-40s, not as good as mid-60s. I've always had a rule of thumb that 60% is the number you want to be at to feel reasonably secure. Ballot issue campaigns, initiative campaigns, for the proponents, are battles of atrophy. You very rarely gain new votes that you don't start with. There have been a couple examples over the years in Colorado of the yes numbers going up as the campaign goes along. But by and large, the yes side starts a campaign with most everything it's ever going to get. And then you just try to fight that number atrophying below 50%. So being at a 55% number is not a bad place to be at, but it doesn't mean you're secure or immune. Mike pointed out there's a lot of superficial appeal, a lot of surface appeal to the minimum wage. I think a lot of it depends on how much money and how effectively that money is spent against it. You and I, Dominic, hosted a debate. It hasn't aired yet, but we taped it a couple days ago.
It airs tonight.
It airs after the show, an hour after the show tonight. So voters can tune in, viewers can tune in and decide for themselves between the two sides of that debate. They both presented themselves well. I'm most fascinated by the two issues on this ballot that I call process issues. One is the quote-unquote raise the bar measure, Amendment 71. Again, you love the purpose of it, but the devil's always in the details, and some of the details on this one, I think, are subject to some criticism. And then the presidential primary and the companion measure to allow independents to vote. I'm in favor of allowing independents to vote or making it easier for them to vote than it currently is, for no reason other than I think anything that we can do to drive politics more to the center, to reduce the influence of both poles, the right pole in the Republican Party, the left pole in the Democratic Party, is healthy and good. And for no reason other than that, I think this is public policy sense.
And as Eric alluded, we have debates at 9 o'clock and 9:30 tonight. We kick off our Colorado Decides season. Colorado Care, the healthcare one, is on at 9, and at 9:30 minimum wage. You do not want to miss it. It's going to be every Friday at 9 o'clock throughout the election season. Greg, I've seen the forces coming out against the minimum wage law, a proposal rather, but I have not seen a lot of the organized forces against the two different primary ballot issues. Do you think that's going to help them get this passed?
No, I don't think people understand it. And if they don't understand it, people tend to vote no. So I think that's really their problem. This might be a case where they actually need to go on the air and try to explain what the issue is and why people should care. I've been here for 14 years, and the one thing I just can't get my head around is how easy it is to amend the Constitution in the state. Like, for example, why does the minimum wage matter a constitutional amendment? Like, what happens in 2025 when you've got something in your Constitution, you know, that ends in 2020? It's just, you know, in Massachusetts, where I came from, it took 3/4 of the legislature to approve a constitutional amendment. Yeah, it was just very, very difficult to get this kind of thing on the ballot. But, you know, a lot of campaigns in this state have been won with no media. I think the primary one will go down if they follow that strategy. This is one I think they need to go up on the air and they need to explain what it is.
Patty, all the ballot issues on the table, do you put any money on them on any of them passing?
Well, the minimum wage one of the issues with it, and Greg's absolutely right, this doesn't belong, should be statutory, this shouldn't be constitutional. It's interesting because the big flaw with this one, everyone in theory says, yes, you should be earning at least $12 an hour. There's a problem with how it works in restaurants, which would actually wind up punishing the owners and really helping those who get tips. And I think if there's a lot more publicity about that, that might really hurt the chances, because it's going to hurt your local neighborhood place that might want to pay everyone $12 and could, but this actually will hinder them more. I think the only thing that's going to help the primary measure this year, and I would argue maybe how we handle primaries could be in the Constitution if the proposals were written better, but they're not. People are still mad about how the primaries came down in Colorado this year, or didn't. You know, the state party vote. So people might, without even reading it, vote, but I'm thinking that will ultimately go down.